Hello. How are we all doing? Good to see everybody. Let's make this a little bigger. Now y'all can see me. Let's jump into the assignment for this week, shall we? What's up? What's up? Happy holiday. Happy 4th tomorrow. Hope you're having a good long weekend. I've been going nuts playing Final Fantasy 16. Hello, hello. It's been a good long weekend for me, for sure. And I'm going to use all the time to keep playing Final Fantasy. It's so good. I've been having so much fun with it. My wife also she likes video games. So my wife plays video games, right? But she is not a JRPG fan like I am. Like, that's probably my favorite genre of video games is JRPGs. So, and I've played tons of them. But one of my favorites is Kingdom Hearts. And I got my son playing Kingdom Hearts. And I got him interested in it because it has the Disney factor, right? And my kids like Disney stuff. My wife loves Disney stuff too. So she saw my son playing Kingdom Hearts and was like, he's on Kingdom Hearts 3 though. And she's like, this looks interesting. What is this? And I was like, it's called Kingdom Hearts. She goes, well, I want to try. And I was like, okay. So she's starting her first playthrough of the first Kingdom Hearts game. And it's been fun to watch. If I could go back and do that and play Kingdom Hearts as if I'd never played it before, that would be pretty cool. But I played it as Tiny Chase. I had that game on release day. I had it pre-ordered. Still have my OG copy. That's one of my favorites. All right, let's get in here. So we are going to be building a Pokeball in Maya. Not too crazy. It's a little bit interesting to get yourself oriented in the software. But I'll give you guys a little bit of a crash course into Maya and how it functions. And then we'll jump right into building the Pokeball. And then next week we will UV unwrap it and then paint it. So 2-week assignment here. Next week I would like to be in person if we can. We've been online for a couple of weeks and I'd like to see your guys' faces. So I'd like to try to do that. But let's get in here. So let's go to modeling and texturing a Pokeball. Okay. So this is what we're going to be working on over the next 2 weeks. Okay. So using Maya, we're going to use a couple different techniques inside of the software, a couple different tools to build ourselves a 3D Pokeball. Okay. Then when we're done building it, we're going to take it and UV unwrap it. So, something like this, and then we're going to paint it. You can paint it something fun. You can even do what I did here and add some extra flair onto it. I tried to make my Pokeball look like Bowser a little bit. So had a little bit of fun with that. Gave it a little bit of the Bowser colorway. So just quick paint in Photoshop, nothing too crazy. But there are some things, and we'll talk about these things as we get into Maya a little bit more. Just talking about Ngons, which doesn't make any sense to you right now, but it's a face that has more than 4 sides, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Okay. But nothing too crazy. Maya's a little bit different beast. We've been in the 2D realm for a minute now, but we're going to jump over to 3D, and it's a little bit of a process, but it's not too bad. And I think you'll have a lot of fun with this. So, plus you're making something from a video game now, right? Before we've just kind of been drawing and doing some things. We did the logos, which is kind of like building a logo for a game, but now you're getting to build video game assets, which is fun, right? And I know there's got to be some Pokemon fans in the class. So, let's jump into Maya here, and I might need to log and relog really quick, but we'll figure it out. I know the music's kind of loud in my ears, but is the audio okay? Just give me a quick thumbs up in the chat if the audio is good. Let's get logged in here. The logo assignment, let's see here. What I can do is, if you guys need a little bit more time on the logo assignment, I know it's due tonight. But if you guys need a little bit more time on the logo assignment, you know what? For the 17 of you that are in here, put a 1 in the chat if you need a little bit more time on the logo assignment. Because what I can do here is link you a video of another logo that I designed, and you guys can watch this back if you want. So if we go here, I think we did. So do we design the logo in here? Okay, yeah, throw the 1 in there if you need more time. Which I don't mind giving you more time. I can extend it. It would just kind of overlap with the other stuff you're doing, but in reality, that's okay. You'll just kind of have 2 assignments going on at the same time. I believe in this video, I don't want to have 2 audio things of me going on. But this is the intro. Yeah. So if you watch back this video, I'll link this video from the timestamp, because this is, I start designing here. So we'll pause it from the timestamp. I'll share it. So let me put this in the Discord really quick for you. And I'll link you another one too, because I think I designed another logo as well. So we'll put this here. Just give you guys some more resources to watch through. So there's this one, and that's time stamped at the point where I start designing. And then this one, I believe we do another logo, right? Yeah, we do. We do another good one. This is another good one too. So I'll give you guys this one back. There's some good information in this too. Actually, this video's pretty good. This one goes over some extra tools. Yeah, I'll just link this whole video. This one's good too. So both of these are great. And then what I'll do is I'll just extend the assignment till the end of the... I don't want to put them due at the same time, but maybe what we can do is... We'll bump it to the 24th. Is it being due? Does that work? Then you guys can kind of have a week in between there. And then we get a couple of weeks to work on the ZBrush creature too. But in between there, you can just turn it in whenever you finish it. Okay? Cool. Maya is on the Autodesk student software website. So if you go to Autodesk... student software, so it's under here, and then you'll need to create an account, but here's the link to this page. Yeah, no problem. I got no problem giving you guys more time. That's totally fine. Both of those videos are great too. Like I designed a logo for both of the screenshots in there, except for the pixel based one that's in the assignment now, so you can see kind of my thought process in doing those. And it works out good. In the second video, we go over some more tips and tricks. So there's some other things that help you, like rotational copying and other things that are good inside of Illustrator to just know. So those are good to go through. Sure, no problem. Let's see here. So if we go to, so let me send you this link really quick. I'll post it in here. I just have to do this to try to chat. Got it. So I can paste the link here. There's the link to the Autodesk student software page. And then you just have to do the get started thing here. It will have you verify that you're a student. So I think you either have to do like a student ID or your course schedule or something. But most of the time it's like instant, like they grant you instant access. Sometimes it takes like 10, 15 minutes, but that's okay. But you can start there. Okay. So we're going to jump straight into Maya, and we're going to open up a Pokeball that I've done already in here just to pull this up. But then I'm going to go through and give you a little bit of an introduction into the space. Okay. So we are going to hide that for a minute. But when you first open up Maya, it's going to look something like this. And I'm going to shrink my head down and kind of move it out of the way for a minute. I'll put myself up here for the time being. I shouldn't be blocking anything in that window unless we get real tight, but I think I'll be okay right there. So, when you first jump into Maya, okay, it's going to be a little bit interesting, right? Because actually, let's just do this. Let's start with a fresh scene, okay? So when you first jump into Maya, it's going to look something like this, right? You are now working in a 3-dimensional realm, okay? Previous to this, we were working in 2D planes in Photoshop and in Illustrator. Illustrator does have a 3D element to it, but we didn't touch too much on it. But this is true 3D. You're modeling in 3D, okay? So, a couple things just to get yourself oriented in the space, right? This main window is your main perspective view, okay? There's a couple of ways to change this view, but we'll talk about them in a minute. There are windows on every single side of you for the most part. Pop out and fly out windows that come into play. On the left-hand side of the screen, there is a toolbar and some things that we can talk about here in a second. Above you in the window is a couple of shelves, right? So you have like window options right here within this viewport. So your viewport options. Then you've got the shelf. Then you've got the normal modeling tab buttons right here, and then your standard like menu buttons. Okay, so it's a similar layout. Once you use one Autodesk program, you kind of get the feel of how they lay out their stuff. It's very similar to Adobe in that sense. Like once you've used one Adobe piece of software, you've kind of used them all, if that makes sense. So when we jump into Maya, there are some things that we can do to help get ourselves oriented. So the first thing to notice is in the top right hand corner, there is a view cube. Okay. So this cube represents the way that your camera is currently looking at this view, right? So if you click this view cube, you can rotate it and turn around. This is a viable way of moving around the space. It's not the most optimal, I would say, but it does work. And you can click on the different tabs. You can flip around. You can click on corners of things to view, to flip around, right? So, that is one way to move around the space, okay? The next way is holding the Alt key and left mouse button is going to allow you to rotate around the space, okay? So Alt and left mouse button allows you to rotate the camera and just kind of move around the space, right? So once you have an object in there, it's going to start making more sense, but we're just moving around basically the modeling plane right now. The zeros, I guess the y-axis plane here, right? So the next thing to note is that the scroll wheel is zoom. They get a +1 from Chase for having scroll with zoom being a default option. So scroll is zoom is with your scroll wheel on your mouse, okay? Alt left mouse button is rotate, right? Alt middle mouse button is pan. So rotate, zoom, pan, okay? Should feel fairly similar to working in Illustrator because Illustrator is middle mouse button to pan, right? And then zoom to scroll, and then you can do some things with that, right? Alt plus left mouse button to rotate through the planes. Yep, exactly. So perfect. Okay. So Alt left mouse button, zoom with scroll, and then Alt middle mouse button is pan. Okay. You can also Alt right mouse button to zoom, which is a scrub zoom. This is a little more intricate and a little more precise of a zoom than the mouse wheel. The mouse wheel is almost a step zoom. You can feel it because your mouse wheel is going to step unless you have like a continuous scrolling mouse. Some people do. I don't have a wheel that does that. But you'll notice that it kind of is a step zoom, like it's stepping. But with the Alt right mouse button, it's more of a smooth zoom. So you can get really precise with that zoom if you need to get into like smaller spots of an object. Okay, so those are the movement keys. Pretty straightforward. Just Alt left mouse button, zoom with scroll, and Alt right mouse button to scrub zoom, and Alt middle mouse button to pan. Okay. So now we need to actually talk about what Maya does, right? And what Maya does is allows us to do polygon modeling, right? Or, you know, we're modeling with 3D meshes. Okay. Maya 2024, do I add any components? It said Arnold render, Bifrost, and Substance. Those are not essential for right now. You don't need to put them in there. We're not going to be doing any rendering, so you don't need to. And I haven't touched 2024 yet, so I need to get that downloaded too. I'll do that. I'm in 2023 right now, but 24 should be very similar. Okay, so from here we need to actually drop in a object to start understanding more about 3D modeling in a sense, right? So up here under the poly modeling tab, you'll see these primitive objects. You've got a sphere, cube, cylinder, cone, torus, a plane, and then a circular plane, a disc, right? So we're just going to drop a cube in. Okay. So if you click the cube, it will just drop a cube at 0, 0, 0 in the middle of your screen. Same things still apply. We can rotate around our cube, we can zoom, we can pan, but now we have something to look at, right? But inside of Maya, now that we're not working with brushes and different tools that are like, you know, lasso tools and brush tool and all these things, right? Now we're working directly with polygons. We're working with faces. We're working with edges and vertices. So let's talk about a little bit about what makes up an object inside of Maya, right? And I'll talk about what I just did there. I just scaled it up for a second, but I want to break down what an object actually is inside of the software to y'all, okay? So looking at this guy, we have a cube, right? So this cube, when we click on this cube, it's going to highlight in green. This cube itself is what's called an object, right? So we have an object inside of Maya. If we move the object, there's a couple of different keys that we can do, right? We have W, E, and R, which are our different hotkeys. Q will quit out of your current tool. But W, E, and R are a key that you're going to want to remember as we go through our 3D modeling journey together, because those keys work the same in Substance Painter as well. Sorry, not Substance Painter, ZBrush. But W is move, okay? E is rotate, R is scale. We'll come back to those. Right now, you'll notice that when I click on the cube, it's highlighted in green, okay? If we go over to the side, on the right-hand side of our screen, there's gonna be a little tab that says Modeling Toolkit, okay? This Modeling Toolkit is going to give you some options at the top that say Vertex, Edge, and Face. These allow you to swap through the different modes that you can view your object through, right? There's also another way to do this by right-clicking on an object itself, or right-clicking really anywhere in the space while you're selected on object. And while holding right mouse button, you get this radial menu that pops up, and you can just drop to edge mode or object mode or vertex mode, all the same. It's the same as doing it here. It's just another way to do this. This is probably the quicker way to do it once you get comfortable with it, but it's not any better than doing this. It does the same thing, okay? So remember, when it's highlighted in green, it is in object mode, right? Let's talk about vertex mode. So objects in Maya are built out of singular points in space that are then connected by faces or edges, right? So this vertex is a singular coordinate point inside of this 3D space, right? The vertice can be manipulated and moved. You'll also hear people say pixel pushing when they refer to modeling in Maya, because they are literally taking a vertice or a pixel, right, and pushing and pulling it around to change an object's shape. Okay. You can grab multiple vertices by clicking and dragging and doing a marquee select, or clicking and holding shift and clicking other ones, right? You can grab multiple vertices, and now we can change an object like this, right? So play around with this as I'm talking and just get kind of comfortable with this, right? But we can move objects all over the place. We can move things in different weird directions. We can create weird shapes and objects with these things, right? So that is vertex mode. That is one way we can manipulate this object, is through its vertices. The other way we can do it is through the edges, which now allows you to click on the point that sits between the two vertexes, right? We have an edge now, and we can click and manipulate this edge instead of manipulating just a vertice, right? We have the same form of manipulation as we do with the entire object, right? I can rotate an edge, I can scale an edge, right? I can move an edge. But in vertice mode, I cannot do that. I cannot scale a singular vertex, right? Because I'm only clicked on one point, okay? However, if I have 2 points selected, I can scale the distance in between those two objects, or two vertice points, right? So edges, very similarly, we can select multiple edges by holding shift. We can also select multiple edges by holding tab. It allows you to paint select. It's a little bit nicer. Usually we end up using that paint select when we're in face mode, because it allows you to paint multiple faces very quickly. But edge mode and vertex mode, it does work the same. Edge mode, when we're moving around, it's the same. We talked about it. We can move, scale, rotate. The last one that we can manipulate in is face mode. Now, face mode allows you to select the entire face or polygon, right? We have this whole face that we can use and select and move things around. So now I can manipulate this face. I can manipulate this face, right? I can scale this face. I can move this face. I can rotate this face. I can scale this face again. I can move it, right? So we can create interesting shapes quickly by manipulating these different object types, right? Vertices, edges, faces, okay? When we're inside of Maya, we want to make sure that we stay in this traditional format of modeling with polygons, or quads is what they end up being called a lot of the time, right? Quads are these four-sided faces, okay? You have 1, 2, 3, 4 edges. It's okay to technically have a triangle. Let's say you have something that ends up looking like this, where you've got another edge sitting in between two faces. This is okay. Sometimes it can be a little annoying when you try to go to UV an object. It can create like a weird space where you're trying to keep a nice flow in your edge flow. Triangles can really mess up edge flow sometimes. Sometimes they're essential to moving and changing the direction of an edge, but that's pretty advanced, and I don't know if we're going to get to that quite yet. But you'll notice that right now, this cube doesn't have a whole lot of definition to it, because we only have, you know, a set number of sides and faces to work with here, right? So if we were going to change this object to manipulate it further, we need to add more edges, more vertices, more faces to create more complex shapes, right? There's a tool in here in your modeling toolkit that's called multi-cut, and this tool is kind of essential to what we're trying to do, right? There are ways you can add edges and vertices through the channel box editor here, which is basically like an options view or an options pane. Sorry, the attribute editor, not channel box. The attribute editor is kind of like a options plane for the object you have selected. I'm gonna move my face now a little bit again. But you'll see when I have this cube selected, if I go to that attribute editor on the right hand side, it's just a little tab, and I click on the tab up here that says polycube 1, because that's the object that's in the view. You'll notice that I can change the width, height, and depth here as well with this. But the other thing that I can do, and I can assign them number values, which can be helpful sometimes. But the thing I can do here is I can change my subdivisions. So I can add more vertices through this object in each direction. So now I have multiple faces. This ends up looking like a little bit like a Rubik's Cube, but that's okay. But now I have more faces and vertices to manipulate and play with and change, right? Now I can end up changing this drastically and making a much different shape than it originally was, right? I can change and manipulate this in a way that wasn't able to be done before because of the limitation in polygons, right? So, what ends up happening sometimes is as you're modeling, it can get tricky to keep all these quads in quad polygons, right? So let's say in these 4 square kind of boxes, right? The one thing you want to try to avoid more than anything else is ending up with objects that have more than 4 sides, right? So something like this, okay? This usually is not a great thing because it ends up being what's called an n-gon, right? This face has more than 4 sides. Just certain types of softwares like Unreal Engine doesn't like that. The model tries to get triangulated when it goes into the engine, so it will try to triangulate all your quad polygons. And when it gets to n-gons, it has a harder time trying to triangulate this because when it cuts it in half, it's left with 2 polygons, or it's left with an odd number of sides. So it just doesn't like this, right? So if we can do our best to avoid things like this and make sure we have clean quad topology everywhere, that's what we're shooting for. And as we're working through the Pokeball, I'm going to make sure that we keep that quad topology, and you're going to be following along. But it's just something that you need to understand as you get further down the line into your modeling career, right? That we want to try to keep these quads. Sometimes it's nigh impossible, and you end up having to use n-gons to your favor, and then you go through and do what's called retopology, where you're redrawing polygons back on the surface. But again, that's kind of high level too. So I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole with that. But for today, what we really need to understand are a couple of tools. We need to understand how multi-cut works, okay? So we used the attribute editor to cut quads, right? But we did not use our tool called multi-cut yet. So with R with scale to scale up this cube, right? If I go to my modeling toolkit and go to multi-cut, you'll see that my cube turns blue. Now you're going to notice everywhere I hover, it's going to try to attach itself to one of these vertices, right? Or it's going to highlight an edge red. I can just click to the next point and hit enter and cut one edge into this object. That's fine. Sometimes you need to do that. To add full-on edge loops where it's cutting a loop around the whole object, you need to hold control. Now, if I hold control on a vertical edge, it's going to cut horizontally through my object. So I can cut, edge loops like this. If I hold control over a horizontal edge, it's going to cut vertically through my object, right? So we can do something like this. And they're not as clean, but that's okay. You can also do a trick here with multi-cut where you hold control and then you hold shift, and that's going to snap it to certain degree points. So if I wanted to click this directly in the center at 50%, I can do that, right? I'm holding it at 50%. I'm holding shift at 50%. Now I've cut my edge loop directly in the middle all the way around, right? So that is one tool. Multi-cut is a tool we want to understand today. The other tool that we need to understand for today, and these are really the only two we're going to be using today, is multi-cut. And then the next one that we need to understand is called extrude. Okay. So extrude is an interesting command because what it allows you to do in this case, right? We have this cube with multiple faces on it now. I'm only able to do so much. Like, I can manipulate this pretty well, but I'm only able to do so much. Let's say I really need to drastically change what this object looks like. I need to make a lamp post or something, a square looking lamp post. So extrude is going to allow me to take these faces or parts of this mesh and pull them out of one another. So if I take these 4 faces on the top by holding shift and selecting them, if I hit extrude, I can then hit W on my keyboard, which is move, and I can pull those faces out. Excuse me, right? So now I'm adding another row of faces in between these. Excuse me, my allergies are killing me. Making me sneeze and hiccup. Oh man. Okay. So extrude, I can pull things out, right? The other way that extrude can be used well is, let's say again, so I undid my extrude. The one thing that I will warn you about with extrude is that it can quickly damage an object really and give you way more faces in an area that you don't want if you're not careful with it, because you can extrude and then extrude on top of one another, and then you end up having, look, I didn't undo that extrude. Now I have 2 extrusions there. So now if I try to pull these faces out, I'm gonna have 2 sets of faces here that I'm gonna have to deal with, and now I may have like some weird stuff living inside of this cube, or I may end up having double faces or something on here. So I just need to be careful with that, okay? So be careful with your extrude tool. Let's undo quite a few times here and just make sure. And then I'm gonna re-chop this up. Okay, so extrude, if I go here and I hit extrude once and I hit R to scale, I can scale that extrusion in. I may have had another face selected, so let's retry that. That's the other thing when you're doing extrusions, is to make sure you don't have random faces selected. So let's try this one more time. So if I extrude this, if I hit scale, I have another face selected again. Gosh dang it. Okay, extrude, hit R. If I scale this down, you'll see that I can do something like this, right? Pretty cool. And then if I hit extrude again, I can pull it up, and now I can create, you know, some different looking shapes here. I can do this again. I could extrude again, scale in, and then extrude again and push down. And now we've made, you know, a more interesting, more complex shape. Okay. And extrusions can be done on just one face. They can be done on multiple faces. So you can do things like this, right? They can be done in a number of different ways. So that's extrusions, okay? So those are the 2 big tools that we want to understand for today: extrude and multi-cut. And with that, we can jump in and start modeling our Pokeballs. So we're going to use a little bit of trickery here. I'm going to pull in an object here. I think I still have it. Sorry, I'm just looking for this file. We can look through these. Looking for the Pokeball we did. Let's see this one. That's the one I already had. That's fine. Okay. That's fine. So we go here. We can pull this guy in here. I like how this one turned out. I feel like there's a better way to do this too. So we may end up doing a couple different things here. I don't mind how this works, but I think there's a way we can do it with a cube as well, where we do something like this. Okay, so to start out here, if we want to go this route, which is not a bad route. Oh, look, we've got a nice cube on the inside. If we want to go this route, which is not bad, this is totally fine. We can do it this way. We can start with a sphere and rotate it this way. The only reason I like doing it with the cube instead, and there's a couple reasons and a couple things that we can do to make it look cleaner. Here's the cons to doing it with the rotated sphere. I don't love the backside of this and how it gets squished here. So the reason we can use the cube to do this is I can scale up a cube, right? And then there's a command here under mesh at the top that's called smooth. And you hit smooth on this, and then you do mesh smooth again, and then you do mesh smooth one more time. And it basically creates a ball the same way, right? And then you can go about doing something similar to this, where we take all the faces in the center here. And I end up liking this a little bit more, and we do something where we go mesh, and there's a circularize option here, where we do something like that. And I don't know. It ends up looking a little bit better. And all you do is you just pull this back a hair. And then we split the thing in half. I don't know. It can be good either way. And it can end up being a little cleaner. The other thing is we do it one more time. Like you go cube like this. And then you go mesh smooth. And you do it a couple of times. So you get the third smooth in there. And then you really have quite a bit to work with in here. So you have something like this, and you can circularize this. But we need to make sure that it doesn't get twisted funny. It's not the worst thing in the world. I don't know. This allows you more freedom to edit and do like the more kind of Bowser style Pokeball that I did a little earlier. This way ends up being fast, and you can do it fast, which is not a horrible thing. I don't know. I think we're going to go this route. I like this. So this is probably going to be out for right now. But let's keep it in here so we can just look at it for right now. Okay, so we are going to start with a cube. So this is where you can start following along. Okay, we're going to start with a cube. We're going to scale it up roughly to this size. Okay, then we're going to do mesh smooth once. So it's under mesh. You're going to hit smooth, and then you're going to go mesh, and you're going to hit smooth again. Okay, and I don't know, do we want to keep it this low? We can do a smooth one more time. Okay, so now we're here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this object here and we're going to circularize this. Actually, let's take all of these here. Maybe we smooth one more time. Yeah, let's smooth one more time. This gives us a little bit more freedom. Then we can go here and grab all these faces. So if I hold tab, I can paint and select all these faces here in the center, and make sure you're grabbing a square number of faces. So if we grab 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, is that 5? That's a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So 5 by 5 right in the middle. We're going to take that and we're going to circularize this. Okay. It's under edit mesh and then hit circularize. Then when you do that, it's going to pull up this thing that says poly circularize. And then we just want to make sure that this twists back normal. The other thing that's bothering me here is that that's not centered. Make sure that you're centered over this. So maybe we want to do it 4 by 4. Something like that. Might even need to be a little bigger. Something like this. Yeah. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 by 6 around the center. Same thing though. Edit mesh and then circularize. Then we just need to make sure that this twist goes back to where it's straight. So that's like a 3.5 on that poly circularize. Okay. So cool. So now you'll see that that looks something like this. That's great. I'm going to take that and kind of push it back in so it's not sticking out so far. So it looks something like this. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these edges here and I'm going to straighten these out. So I'm going to go double click on this edge loop. So I'm in edge mode, right? I'm going to double click on this, hit the R key on my keyboard, and I'm going to pull this green square back to the center. I'm going to do that on the same thing on the bottom here. I'm just trying to straighten these out. Okay. Because that is going to be where the center of the Pokeball is, right? And then this needs to go into. Okay. So we're going to grab all these. And this is going to get a little crazy here for a second. But we are going to extrude in. So I'm going to take extrude here. And I'm going to extrude in like this. Okay. So we extruded in on that Pokeball, right? And hold on a second. I may have messed something up. I had extra faces selected. Let's go through this process one more time. So we have the 6 by 6 selected in the middle of the Pokeball here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. Okay. Make sure nothing's selected on the back. Let's hit a circularize on this. edit mesh, circularize, bring that twist back to a 3.5 so that it's centered and not twisted weird in there. Hit W on my keyboard to bring that back a little bit so that it's not sticking out so weird on the front of that sphere. It can a little bit, but I don't want it too much. Okay. Then back to edge mode, right clicking and holding, going to edge. And then I'm going to smooth some of these out, particularly this one. So I'm going to double click on that one of these edges just along here. If I double click, it selects the whole loop. Then I hit R on my keyboard to scale. I bring the green square box down towards this little yellow one and it evens out that line, right? We're just straightening it out so when I go to extrude, it's a clean straight line. Okay. So all good there. Then I'm going to face mode and I'm going to double click, I'm going to click a face somewhere in this realm and then hold shift and double click the one next to it. And that's going to select the faces around kind of similarly to how it's selected the edges, right? Then I'm going to hold shift again, click this, double click. It's going to select all those. You can also tab select if you want, if it's a little bit hard for you to get that double click to work right. Sometimes it's a little annoying. You can hold tab and paint select all the way around. And then I'm going to hold tab and paint the sphere that we made out of the middle. Okay. I can hold shift and deselect things if I don't want them selected. So now I've got this all selected, right? I'm going to come in here and hit extrude and scale this in, right? And we're getting the inside of that Pokeball, okay? Which is what we want. And we can bring we can do something like this too. So we're here. If we want that edge to be a little closer together here, we can bring this closer in here, right? We could even bring these faces closer together on the underside. We just need to deselect these. So if we don't want that separation to be that big in between those, we can change it a little bit. So I'm just deselecting. Then I'm going to scale it back and close it up a little bit. Just if you want, right? If you don't want that to be such a wide opening for that Pokeball hole there. Okay. Okay. So from that point, it's looking pretty good, right? Pokeball's feeling okay, right? The next thing we need to do, a couple other options here, is to do the button now. So now we need to take some options here inside of here and do some scaling within this area. So we can take some faces in here, particular these, I would imagine, and circularize these. So we do something like this, and we do a mesh circularize, or edit mesh circularize. So we're getting another circle in here. We can scale this up to wherever we want, right? To wherever that feels right in there. And then we can extrude. And we can pull that button out, right? So now we have our button coming through there. If we look on a regular Pokeball, that button comes out pretty far for this piece. So something like this, where I think the button kind of extends out a little bit further than the front of the Pokeball, and then the main button comes out a little bit further. So for here, for this one, we can pull this out a little bit further than the main lip. Then we can extrude again. I'm going to scale this down just a little bit. Okay, so then we extrude again. We pull this in, right? And we extrude one more time. We pull this out. And we've got the button too, okay? So now we've got the button built. It's sitting in there properly. We've got a nice extrusion on the Pokeball, right? But there's some things that feel a little weird. We can see all the polygons here, which might not necessarily be our favorite thing that we can see here. So if we want, we can take these edges. If I click one edge that's going out here, right? If I click on the edge next to it and double click while holding shift, it's going to select all the edges around this object. You could also do it in face mode, but it tends to be a little bit easier with the edges. So if I just click an edge, hold shift, click the edge next to it, or sorry, double click the edge next to it. And then if I go to mesh display and I hit soften edge, you'll see now I can't see those hard edges on that Pokeball anymore, which is nice. So I could do the same thing here. Mesh. And then I can hit soft mesh display and then hit soften edge. So it's still a little polygonal from the front, but now we can't see those hard edges from there. Then I could do the same thing through here so that we clean this up a little bit. We do want these ones to be hard, so I'm going to keep those. But then I'm going to do the same thing here. So I've selected all those edges around there, right? They're highlighted in orange, so I can tell they're selected. And I can hit mesh display, soften edge. Now when I jump off of there, they're a little bit smoother in there, which is good. Okay. So a couple more kind of finalizing details. Right here, I'm going to soften the edges on these. Just so that it feels a little more smooth through there. Okay. The other thing that feels a little weird right now to me is I don't love how set back in the Pokeball this face is. So I'm going to take this edge here and I'm going to kind of bring this forward just a little bit. It just feels a little too recessed in there. So I'm just going to bring that forward a little bit. Help that feel a little more rounded in there. See, that already feels better to me. Okay. So, couple final tools here. There is a tool that we can use to give it a sort of beveled look that helps just kind of push the overall final appeal of the object. So if I take the edge and double click this edge all the way around like we had, right? So I select this top edge. I could do it with this one too. So I'm just holding shift and double clicking till it selects these edges like this. Over in your modeling toolkit on the right hand side, there's an object or a tool called bevel. If I just hit bevel on this, you'll see I can then bevel the face of the Pokeball, and I can change how much of a bevel I want, right? So I can do a fraction on it, something like that. It just makes it look a little cleaner, a little smoother, right? So now there's that bevel on there, and I would like to do it on these two as well, just to give it a little bit cleaner look. So let's make sure we have everything selected here. So let's bevel this, and then we'll change that fraction a little bit. So it's just a little cleaner looking now, right? So we have our Pokeball here. Final step here to finish this up is to take the shell here on this Pokeball and to take the shell and separate it from one another so that we can do this thing, the fancy thing here where I can open this one up, right? Kind of cool. We can do that on this one too by taking this object. Also, we may have given ourselves a hard edge. Actually, it's okay. So what we can do is under the face mode, we're just going to select everything from here down on this as best we can. And we're going to go through here and try to highlight all the faces on here. So it might take us a second. We're just going to kind of select the bottom half of this ball. You can hold tab and paint. Make sure you don't select other parts of the ball. Okay, just selecting some areas. Make sure you get everything you want selected. This will get you a little more comfortable with the paint select too. So we've selected this whole bottom half of the ball. Okay. This is all selected. You can tell by being selected in orange. And then if we go to mesh and we go to, it might be under edit mesh. We go to edit mesh and we do extract. Now this object is separated from this object. Okay. If I hit W on this side, I can pull it away now, right? So that's what we want. And then just to do that little cool trick where we open it from the top, if I hit D on my keyboard while I'm in the move command, I can then move the pivot point. And we're going to talk about something here that we haven't talked about yet. And that's snapping. There's a thing called vertex snapping in Maya where I can snap to a specific vertice, right? If I'm holding V, that's called vertex snap. And you'll see that it's snapping to each individual vertice as I move around. So if I snap it to the vertice right here on the back of the ball, and then I just hit E to rotate, it's going to rotate from that vertice on the back of the ball right there. And we can do that cool open function where the Pokeball's opening, just like this other one over here. Okay. You can hold J to rotate it at a certain, at 15-degree increments. So it'll rotate like that. But you do have a Pokeball that opens from the back side now like that. The cool thing with this now is because it's not in this this format like this one, you'll notice there's a little bit of a subtle difference between these two Pokeballs. And it's okay. One of them is a little bit thinner. Which is not a bad thing. If we shrink them and put them next to each other, there's a little bit of a subtle difference here between these two. This one has a little bit thinner bevel in between the two. But here's the one pro to this Pokeball. Okay. The pro here is that we have quad polygon topology all over this ball now. Versus here, it is quad polygons, but it's in this weird sort of conch shell shape where this is more of a grid. So here, if we wanted to take this Pokeball, which is pretty cool. So let's take this one out of the equation now. So we can keep an original Pokeball here, right? If we go here, and let's say we wanted to make a Great Ball, okay? The ability to make a Great Ball is going to be much easier on this Pokeball than it is on the other ones, right? We can change the topology here much easier than we can on the previous one. So if we have, let's do some different Pokeball types. Let's say a Great Ball. Great balls of fire. It's not what I was looking for. So a great ball has these two sort of things coming off of it, right? These two extrusions popped off of it. We can do that here fairly easily, right? We can create that shape by manipulating a vertice or two, right? And creating an extrusion on this object. You could also do some really cool things too, like I did, where you create the horns on here like Bowser's shell. But you have all this topology here to work with that you can create these extrusions. So let's say you wanted to make your great ball. You have these pieces here you can mess with. And you have the ability to change and manipulate them. So if I extrude this out, right? You can make that great ball pretty quick, right? Which is cool. Okay. So the assignment says to just build a Pokeball, but if you want to have some fun and go crazy with it and start, you know, creating different cool types of Pokeballs, you want to make, you know, a damaged Pokeball where you chunk holes out of this or something, you can do that. You want to make a Master Ball, or you want to make, you know, all different types of Pokeballs, right? The Master Ball is kind of interesting. It has the two, it almost looks like underwear on the top of his head. Somebody said that, which was kind of funny in the past. When you look at a Master Ball. It looks like a Pokeball is wearing Wario's underwear. It's pretty funny. But you could do this too pretty easily, where you make the Master Ball. You just take, you know, some faces here. And maybe you circularize these. And you pull that in. Or you extrude it out. What you can do here is you can keep circularizing this. And then pulling these edges down. There's another tool I can show you here that's kind of helpful. That's called the relax tool. That can help make this a little bit easier too. It's under quad draw and you just hold shift. Then you can relax this out. The other thing you could do if you wanted to get crazy is you could take these faces out of here and then you get a sphere. We see how many edges this is. It's 30. That's 20-sided. So we take the sphere here and go to a 30-sided sphere here. Then we just fuse these together. What up, JD? We just fuse these two objects together, right? This looks a little silly, but we could adjust this for sure. But just to give you an idea that you can get in there and really mess with this Pokeball if you want to. You don't have to. The assignment doesn't say you have to. What the assignment does say you have to do is build the Pokeball. So if you get to this point, you're all good. Then if you want to go crazy and have fun, go for it, right? So we're here. There's a couple other things I want to show you that are just handy as you're finishing this up. If you hit spacebar on your keyboard, it's going to lock you into 4 different views, okay? You'll see that it gives you a top view, a front view, and a side view of what you're working on, okay? You can see now I have the perspective view as well. And at whatever view I'm in, I can zoom, scroll, adjust everything, right? If you hit spacebar while you're hovering over a specific window, it's going to full screen that window. So let's say you really need to get some work done in the side view. You can do that, right? By tapping spacebar. It's great, okay? You need to be in the top view orthographically. You need to get some work done in here. Hit spacebar, it's going to tap you in, right? Same thing. So you have all those abilities in each window in that 4-plane view, okay? You also have a 2-plane view where you could do a front view. You can adjust these through the view menu. If you go to select camera, you can change it to, sorry, not select camera. I lied to you. It's under cycle through cameras. So you go view, cycle through cameras. You can change to your different views. So if you need a side view in your perspective view, or if you want to work from a front view in your perspective view, you can do that, okay? But then you can click on this 4-plane window and go back to the standard 4-plane, okay? One more thing over here on the side. These tools are your move tool, your scale tool, and your rotate tool. Each one of these tools have some settings in here that you can adjust as well. I didn't do a whole lot of this in the stream today, so don't get too hung up on this. The one thing that you'll notice is sometimes when you drop in other objects, the orientation of your move widget might be a little weird. And if it is, you can jump into your tool settings by double clicking. Sometimes you just need to change the axis orientation from object to like world. or something like that, and you can do that and it will adjust. Okay, nothing too crazy there. You can do that through these other tools as well, but we didn't do a whole lot of that for today. Really, the biggest things we worked on and focused on were extrude and rotate. We didn't even really need to add anything with the multi-cut tool today, so nothing too crazy. But if you get to this point, you're in good shape. I'm going to move my pivot point back up by hitting D. I'm going to hold V on my keyboard and vertex snap. And vertex snap it to this vertex right here. I want it to open from right there. Then I'm going to hit E to rotate, and now it's going to open from that point. So, if you get this done, you're in good shape for next week when we are going to unwrap and then paint this to be the color of a Pokeball. If we have some time, I'll do some fun stuff. Maybe I'll make him look like a Mario mushroom or a blue shell or something. We'll have some fun with it, okay? But is there any questions that I can answer now while there's still 10 of you in here? I want to make sure you're getting the stuff you need from me. You can always watch this stream back. It's going to be up on the channel. There's also, I think there's like another stream of me doing this exact same thing, which is not a horrible thing, but that's what happens when you end up teaching the same class multiple times. If you go to my live here, you can watch me texturing. We modeled the Pokeball here, which if we watch past Chase, he probably did it a little bit differently, which is okay. Nope, looks like past Chase did the same thing too. Oh, keyboard shortcut of the relax tool. Yeah, let's go through that. So if you need to do or use the relax tool, it's under your modeling toolkit under quad draw. Okay, if you click quad draw, you need to have an object selected. If you hold shift on an object, it will change to relax. You can kind of tell right there. See how it's shifting? When I hold shift, it says relax. That will allow you to relax stuff, which I don't necessarily want to do right now, so I'm going to undo that a little bit. But it's under quad draw and hold shift, and that will give you the relax tool. Okay? Good question. Remember, you have more time now on your logo assignments too, so take a little bit of stress off you there. Yeah, Pokeball is pretty quick and straightforward once you do it. It's really only a couple of commands. It's a circularize, it's a smooth, right? Do you know what version of Maya is running in the lab machines? I believe it's 2023. But if you export out so what you should do before you come to the labs, first things first is an edit. Before you save out any file in Maya, here's the laundry list of details, okay? You're going to do an edit, a delete all by type history, okay? What that does is it tells Maya, hey, this object was nothing other than what this object is right now. There were no steps for it to get here. This object has always been this object. And that's a good thing. You want that because Maya is a text file. Sometimes that text file can become corrupt. So you want that. Okay. The next thing after you've done that is to go file, save scene as, and you're going to save that scene as the thing. The simple scene in Maya is something quick and easy you can do in the lab on Wednesday. That's nothing too insane. What you're going to do is you're just going to use primitives to build me a simple scene in Maya. Okay. So if we go to, the assignment page here, just to get you a little bit more comfortable with Maya. So if you come in here, this is to keep you busy on Wednesday. So if you go simple scene in Maya, I thought I had some stuff in here. If I don't, I will make sure this is up to date and has a description for you for Wednesday. Okay. I have that assignment in another canvas that I'll just copy over. But you'll end up making something like this if I can find a screenshot for you. Sorry, I'm looking for it. 1 second. I really thought I had that. If I don't, then we're going to go like this, because I know I have a video of it. Something like this. And I'll get an assignment description up for you. But you're going to build something like this. You're either going to do like your bedroom or something with just primitives. Or you can build a little island that has like trees and things, where you'll end up doing something like this. Right? I just built a little island that had some objects on it. Right? So something like this. It's pretty simple. But I'll make sure there's an assignment description up for it on Wednesday. It shouldn't take you more than the lab time. Just something you can get comfortable with, dropping in objects, rotating, scaling, doing all that good stuff. Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, then I'll let you guys go. We got through that quicker than I thought, so that's okay. Next week on Monday, we will talk about painting. If you have questions about the Pokeball itself, if you have questions about the logo assignment, if you have questions about, if you have questions about anything, let me know. Okay. We can do screen share. We can do whatever you need to get you the help you need to finish your stuff. Okay. Your TA is available too. Remember that she has TA hours and is happy to help you all as well. She's been great this semester. Yeah, I think that's all I have for you. You guys enjoy your 4th of July tomorrow. Don't get too crazy with the fireworks. Don't blow yourself up. But have fun, and I will see you guys next week. Okay. Thanks.